Now, the global financial crisis might be frightening, but is it also a golden money-making opportunity? Danielle Ward finds out.
The credit crunch is over. We're in recession. It's official. And we're reminded of it everywhere.
The news media got so much mileage from the credit crunch, it even found its way into the Oxford English Concise Dictionary.
So you hear credit crunch and you think, how exciting, shopping on a budget. I'll be ironic and serve beans on toast and Lambrini at my dinner party. There was some solidarity between us. We were cozying up together. We were battening down those hatches.
But when I hear recession, I think of joblessness, homelessness, hopelessness. Everyone's out for themselves and it's just not fun anymore.
Louise, it's a mess.
What do you think when you think of recession? What does it conjure up in your mind, the word?
It's depressing.
Everywhere you go, you're hearing it. Recession.
We should get rid of the depressive words and try and think of positive ways to get out of this situation.
So everybody's fed up with the recession. It's in the papers, it's on the news. No one wants to hear this word anymore. It's time we rebranded it and sexed it up.
Norwich Union successfully rebranded itself Aviva with a celeb-heavy big-budget campaign. And then Ringo Starr rebranded himself a Bell End.
Would any of this have happened to me if I'd have still been Richard Darby?
I rounded up some genuine creative TV people to see what we could come up with.
How do we sex up the recession?
What we need is like a craze. Do you remember those bands came out and it was all like, oh, this means I'm against like racism. Could have one that just means I recognise we're in a credit crunch one and we could sell them for like $2.50.
Yeah, it's a good idea. What colour would they be? So grey.
We'll get some guys working on it. For 50 grand, they'll just work that out for us.
Are we going to have a phrase?
I think it's a word. I think it's a big word. It's a word that's kind of, you know... apocalyptic. Something apocalyptic. Pocket apocalypse. Pocket ellipse.
After what felt like literally hours of blue sky thinking, we came up with a new and very exciting 21st century concept.
Goodbye recession. Hello Moneygeddon. If we can rebrand the recession as something vibrant and appealing, perhaps we can even make money out of it. I mean, if they can flog ground zero baseball caps, I don't see why we can't sell some recession merch.
So I set up a stall selling Moneygeddon t-shirts, mugs, keyrings and survival bottles of water to see if I could profit from my recession rebrand.
If you loved Credit Crunch, you will adore Moneygeddon. We've rebranded the recession because we thought it was a rubbish word. It made everybody depressed, whereas Moneygeddon makes everybody angry, united and thrilled at the same time. It's not like when Cocoa Pops became Choco Krispies and they had to go back. This is it now. Moneygeddon is the recession. You enjoy that? It tastes of tears.
Oh, right, well, I'm afraid that's what we're all shedding with this recession.
Right, I'll have that.
I made a substantial £9.46. And while that may not be quite enough to keep me in Fred the Shred style luxury, I think I could be onto something.
So what have we discovered today other than I would be rubbish on The Apprentice and I look like a young Tory in this T-shirt? Well, we rebranded the recession, we made it Moneygeddon, and do you know what? It sells. Not very well, but it sells.
Oh, that is absolutely unputdownable. Anyway, the news wasn't all recession this week. No, there was room for plenty of bullshit too.
Religion, and while en route to Africa, Big Chief Catholic man Pope Benedict Luftwaffe XVI enlivens Channel 4 News by sharing his scientific wisdom.
It's a tragedy, this question of AIDS. That cannot be overcome by money alone, and that cannot be overcome through the distribution of condoms, which even aggravates the problems.
Oh yeah, these condoms I've been using have really aggravated my AIDS.
The Pope's startling claim provoked a fiery debate back at the studio, featuring a religious woman so irrational, Jon Snow didn't even try to hide his amusement.
Clearly, a condom is the only intelligent thing to do.
No, it's no use saying that you think a bit of rubber will protect you.
Yeah, you should just put your faith in an unprovable man in the sky.
Listen to the facts. When the AIDS epidemic in Uganda started going up, it was when they introduced condoms. Before that, it had gone down using only the Catholic method.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, the Catholic method is to remove the condom and then bury the head of your penis in the sand.
22 million people have got AIDS now because of the condom campaign is making it worse, not better.
Me. Now, how much does the PR industry affect the current affairs agenda? Here's Nick Davis, author of Flat Earth News, with his take.
Journalists, on the whole, are chained to keyboards in offices, and they recycle second-hand information from Newswire and from the public relations industry. And neither of these sources of information is reliable, but both of those sources are recycled, largely unchecked, into what we laughingly call news. And so as journalists get weaker and weaker in performing their job, the PR industry moves in and fills the gap. There's a brilliant example of this with the NatWest 3, who are these three businessmen who worked for a subsidiary of the National Westminster Bank, who got caught up in the aftermath of the collapse of Enron. Within months, evidence is surfacing that the NatWest 3 are embroiled in corrupt and illegal activities. By 2002, the FBI have charged them with criminal offences, and the press have clearly established that these three are bad guys. But there is a single fact in there, which is that they're going to be extradited to the United States with a new piece of law, which is not very fair. So on that slender basis, the PR company who were hired by the NatWest 3 just focused the story on the unjust law. And at that moment, suddenly, the whole angle changes. So almost everybody across the entire political spectrum in the House of Commons and the House of Lords was drawn in by this PR campaign to support it.
I have no idea of whether these men are guilty or innocent, but one thing does seem to me to be clear, that on the question of jurisdiction, any crime that they may have committed, it seems to me to have been committed in this country and not in the United States.
One of the things that the PR people did was to play the family card. They set up interviews, sometimes the man with the wife, sometimes the wife on her own, and it's to do with making them human, victims. We feel sorry for the wives and the children who'll be left behind. It's suggested that they may lose their homes, so they were heavily played.
He doesn't know when he may come back here, and what faces him in Texas is in stark contrast to this.
These guys were stealing millions of bucks. I mean, they were very, very greedy crooks. But that fact got rather lost in the coverage.
They will be given green boiler suits, prisoners' uniforms, which they will have to wear tonight at a detention centre nearby. Now, although Rory was saying it's quite a modern building, it's also been described to me just in the last hour as pretty grim.
According to the PR stories that were being put out, when these guys got to the States, they were going to be held on bail for years. In fact, they were held in a hotel for rather a short period of time. They were going to be appearing in court with orange jumpsuits and loads of chains. In fact, they appeared in their own clothing, and then they faced jail sentences of 35 years. In fact, they got 36 months. So the whole image of this cruel, ruthless American judicial system that was going to be so ghastly, that was going to treat them like kind of Guantanamo Bay detainees, was really not strictly true.
Finance and transport, and Sky News' Dermot Murnahan traverses the southwest of England on a bike, seeking out tales of financial woe in a series of reports called, amazingly, The Economic Cycle. Apart from getting a sore arse, he found plenty of sorrowful and jobless real people to talk to in what was surely designed to be the most heart-tugging reportage of the year.
Trouble is, he didn't always seem to find quite as much financial misery as he wanted.
What happens, you know, if the sun doesn't shine, if it pours with rain, or the tourists just don't come because they haven't got the money? How much longer can you last?
Well, I think we can last. I think people are realising that they're not going abroad, and I think they're realising that our country, and certainly Cornwall, is just such a stunning place, and most miss it.
Next.
Just talking to Ian out there, I mean, it's fingers crossed, isn't it, for this season? You don't know how it's going to pan out, do you, Sue?
It's looking good, though.
Why do you say that, Kirsten?
Bookings are up 50% from this time last year, and we're having a lot more inquiries.
Oh, God.
How are you being treated by your banks? Are they saying, look, Tony, Julie, we understand times are hard, do you need a bit of extra cash here, or are they saying something different?
I think it's haven't been too bad. I've not had a problem
Right.
and I must admit that I've been
Fascinating.
very helpful.
Brilliant.
And,
Great.
at the moment,
Great.
we've not had any
Brilliant.
problems.
Oh, Jesus.
How are things holding up in this economic downturn for you?
It's not too bad, actually. It's
Right.
looking good
Yeah.
for the coming
Right.
season.
Oh,
We
this
had
is
a
bullshit.
Why are you optimistic?
Look, I don't want to underplay recession, but guys like you and the newspapers do love a lousy story about how we're going to have a handcart.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
in many ways, what's
Fascinating.
happening, I think is a really good thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, whatever.